So, Linda,
yes, please.
Sorry, what page are we in on the big picture?
On the big picture, we are on the page 35.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, qualifications for liberation. Om Purna. Oh, no, not this one. Sadashiva Samarabham Shankarashara Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Param Ishvaro Guratmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomabda Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Sava Vedanta Sedanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satiguru Pranatosh Maham Om Shanti 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 Om Namaste and welcome to our Q&A. So do anybody has a question? No questions? Okie dokie.
I think it's good to talk again about qualifications. It's a topic
so?
that I'm
yeah,
because it's a topic that I'm reading in the last time, so it's good to see it again.
We have covered a little bit on Panchadas.
I was studying qualifications and values of values.
Yeah, so we covered a little bit of this Monday, a few days ago, and I was wondering if you want to hear more, then let's do it. Qualifications for Liberation, page 35, the big picture, Swami Paramarthananda. Okay, it's a small booklet with all the introductions, teachings of Vedanta. So the text of Tattva-bodha is an excellent preliminary Vedantic text as it introduces and explains a number of important Vedantic concepts and terminology. So Tattva-bodha is considered to be an introductory text. It was written by Swami Shankaracharya, and it covers pretty much all the teachings without going very deep in the unfoldment of those concepts and notions. So it is very important, very beautiful. If we run out, if we keep this group, we could visit, we could play with that. But anyhow, we would have to wait a year before we finish the Panchadas. So we have this Tattva-bodha, and now we have this small little text, which is just a little introduction, touching some, not all of the concepts and terminologies of Vedanta. Just as the science of medicine, biology, and economics have their own technical terms, so too does Vedanta. Tattva-bodha first talks about the qualifications required for a student of Vedanta. So Tattva-bodha begins with that, qualifications. Okay, so now that we came to Vedanta, let's make sure that we have our qualifications in place. So Tattva-bodha does that right at the beginning. In the modern spiritual world, there is a notion that anyone can get enlightened at any time. This is very common, we all know. And why everybody has that notion? Because Mr. Ego always finds itself to be highly qualified. So if there is something such as qualifications, so I am up there on the top as a high qualified one, and then it's better not to bring qualifications into place. And also a lot of people do not like the idea of qualifications presented by Vedanta as if it was a selective kind of snobby, approach. As you have to be, this is special knowledge, this is highest knowledge, only people who are going to be chosen or selected. No, it's not something that is imposed by Vedanta as a ticket, an entry ticket but it is by nature itself, because these teachings, which analysis of experience based on the nature of the relationship between Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat, they require the individual to be somewhat qualified. Otherwise, the person is going to be wasting their time. If you come to Vedanta and you are still attached to your notions, ideas, and concepts that one has picked up in the spiritual world, such as enlightenment is a beautiful experience, epiphany, or enlightenment, it happens out of a sudden and does not require our own efforts. And so you just need to exist, and then somehow, so you may get one of those, thunders coming from Ishvara up there, and then it awakens you and you are fully enlightened regardless of the way you have conducting your life. So those things very rarely happen, although it could happen. Some people, they have never experienced or expressed any spiritual tendencies in this lifetime, and then out of a sudden they are just like hit by a series of epiphanies, and then when you see they are there in the spiritual path, they are half cooked, let's say like that, half convinced that there is something worth living. And then it could happen. But if it happens, it's not by chance. It is because someone has done the basic development of qualifications in previous births. Okay, so nothing happens by chance. There is there is such a thing as free will, our power to choose the way we conduct our lives, and based on that, we will grow. If we don't do well in that field of discriminating and offering a response, we are not going to grow, we are going to decline. So it's a big responsibility, and this responsibility lies on the human being, because Ishvara cannot provide us with results which are not aligned with our desires and our actions, of course. We cannot be like, oh no, I want to kill a bunch of people next month. And then Ishvara looks at you and say, okay, so I'm going to give a different result to that guy. I'm going to make him enlightened. So no, it does not work really that way. No, Ishvara is going to give back to us more or less the results of what we think, we say, and we do, in a way that it could facilitate us to connect the dots and keep growing, developing, and understanding the purpose of this life. But people do not like this idea of qualifications, and they believe that it is discriminating people. How can you say that I am not qualified? No, we are not saying that you are not qualified to Vedanta. We are just saying that if you don't have certain qualifications, Vedanta is not going to help you. Oh, no, but I want to try. Okay, try. But consider that it may be a waste of time and energy. Okay? So I have had these similar conversations with some people here in Brazil, people who are absolutely not qualified. And I often, I take this approach. So you try, stick around, don't interrupt the class to talk about your emotional problems or your financial problems, because Vedanta does not offer any advice in that sense, okay? So try, if it helps you, stay with it, and then otherwise just look for the help you need on the level you find yourself at right now. Although sometimes it seems undemocratic to state the qualifications, this is the case. For the countless number of spiritual seekers, though there only a few ever become finders. Yeah, so we can see we can see that there are millions of people searching for resolution, let's say, happiness, peace, contentment in the spiritual world, believing that it's all about a certain experience. And these people, 99% of these people, they never get to that permanent satisfaction and confidence and happiness and so on. So why they do not get to that? They do not get to that because first, they don't have all the required qualifications. And second, here they are looking for the self on an object of experience. They are looking for it in the wrong place. They are looking into an object of experience, and then they don't understand that it's all about knowledge, understanding, and not about an experience. And furthermore, they don't understand that in order for them to really successful follow this Jnana Yoga, this Vedantic Jnana Yoga, they need to prepare and qualify by studying Karma Yoga, Dharma, and Upasana. So we need to begin there. It's already difficult to find people prepared and ready for Karma Yoga because Karma Yoga is already advanced teachings. If you look at the entire spiritual world, do you agree with me, Elizabeth?
I absolutely do.
Okay. Yeah, Karma Yoga is knowledge, and people, I mean, it's difficult for people to understand Ishvara without projecting a God somewhere who is just watching out to reward us or to punish us, So it is pure knowledge. It's knowledge about Mithya, it's knowledge about Ishvara, it's knowledge about Jiva, it's knowledge about Jagat, it's knowledge about the laws governing Mithya, you understand? And it's knowledge. And people, they are, generally speaking, they are allergic to knowledge. So we know that it requires certain qualifications because we see millions of people seeking and very few people are getting it, understanding it, accomplishing it. Okay, and then of course, so why certain people get it, some people do not get it, and then they observed the people at the very beginning of this process, of these revelations.
Yeah, you need a lot. Yeah, you need a lot of time, and you need a desire to know, to get rid of the ignorance.
Dedication, dedication. And
dedication.
And qualifications. And we see most people.
And Karma yoga is very important.
Yeah, it's key.
So that's it.
Yeah. So they need time, as you say, and a lot of people nowadays, they say like, no, I don't have time and I need instant results. So if it requires a process of development of qualifications, preparedness, and so on, I know I don't have time for that. Although I go to that guru that offers instant enlightenment, okay? But we know that there isn't such a thing as instant enlightenment. If you get enlightened in an instant, by the grace of Shakti coming from a certain environment, you're gonna lose that because it was just an experience, provoked by a certain field of energy. So this is not because Ishvara has its favorite disciples. No, it's not about that. It is because people are more prepared than others. It's simply because they have a prepared mind. The qualifications are the 4 Ds. So most probably we all heard about the 4 Ds, the 4 qualifications. So the qualifications when we want to when I want to compact them to keep it simpler in our mind, we talk about the 4 Ds, being the first one, discrimination. We know that everybody is born with a certain faculty of discrimination. We can discriminate all the time. Unfortunately, our discrimination is very rudimentary because we do so based on our likes and dislikes, what I want, what I don't want, and then I discriminate among the objects, what I want to get, what I want to avoid, and it's all vasana based, not knowledge based, not dharma based. But we all have this discrimination, viveka. But this discrimination needs to be purified, refined. Why? Because if you object between a color of a car that you're going to buy, that is a very dense and gross discrimination. Okay, so but the moment you begin discriminating, following the logic as presented by the analysis of experience, of Vedanta, and then the mind needs to be a little more subtle, very, very much more subtle, so and discriminative, so that you can follow that. And there are other qualifications as well, but we need to use discrimination in a very refined way, because at the very end, what saves us from samsara is discriminating consciousness from the intellect. And this is a very subtle discrimination. Unless the intellect is very subtle, very purified, very refined, this discrimination between consciousness and the shining, the light that shines in the intellect, you are the intellect, you are doing your work on the intellect level, and then there is something shining as consciousness, as sentience on your very intellect, and then you have to undo that superimposition and discriminate the original limitless consciousness from the reflected consciousness. It requires the intellect to be very subtle, because it is a very subtle discrimination. So discrimination, viveka, is the most fundamental and appears always at the top of the list. So with the 4 Ds, we have dispassion. Dispassion and discrimination, they grow together, let's say, because it's a byproduct of discrimination, which is analysis of experience, its maturity, its understanding, connecting the dots between my desires, my actions, and the results. I keep connecting these dots, and then gradually I develop wisdom, and then I don't do those things that hurt me and hurt others and our environment. I begin doing good actions that bring about better results. So this is all discrimination, and we do that. And as we do that, what we are doing, we are developing a certain dispassion or control over our likes and dislikes. So life presents itself to us as our prarabdha karma, our circumstance of life, our situations. When it presented to us, we need to have a certain power of dispassion or equanimity in regards to what life is gifting us. Sometimes it's pleasure, sometimes it's pain. So we need to be able to take life as it comes without losing our temper, not losing our balance, without losing our discrimination. So we have this passion, which is a positive indifference in regards to my life situation as it unfolds. I still connect the dots. I still say, okay, this is happening. There is a chain of cause and effect, and this is my life situation, and I have to take it because this is my karma. You understand? As long as one identifies with causality, with karma, this is my karma, and I take it, And I take it with elegance, meaning to say, I don't kick and scream and throw a tantrum when things are not favorable to my likes and dislikes. I just develop this passion. It's a positive indifference, a positive view, that somehow insulates me from the impacts or shocks or cries that life throws at us. Ishvara throws at us, cries again and again, difficult. It's all for us to learn something, on an individual level, on a collective level. These things are just all the time manifesting. And if we are not really discriminative, chances are we are not going to have this passion, which is the second D, because this passion grows together with discrimination, so to speak, So we are developing this passion, a certain detachment from what from my expectations in regards to what life is going to present me with. And then I'm more and more at peace because I'm going to be less and less frustrated, less and less irritated, less and less angry when things are not going my way. So I'm developing more and more peace of mind because I have developed this passion. And this passion is also a function of understanding the nature of objects, the nature of experience, the limitation and defects of every experience. And then I'm no longer crazy for this experiential world, of varieties of experience. So, and then what's happening to that? My mind is less and less agitated, less and less frustrated or irritated, because I have this passion. What happens to my discrimination? My discrimination is grown. It's much more refined. It's much more accurate because I have this passion. So they go together. One supports the other. So the third D is discipline. So we need to have discrimination. Discrimination goes together with this passion. And then this passion, and then we have discipline. And of course, we could say that this passion, it's a byproduct as well of discipline, because unless I have a means by which I can discipline my thoughts, my actions, and my sense organs of reception. So I have to control my thoughts. I need to control my sense on the receiving side, my sense of reception. Okay, what it means to be able to control the sense organs of reception. It means our receiver personality, the aspect of our ego, of our identity as a jiva, the one that again and again receives the Paramartha karma coming from Ishvara. That side of us, the receiver side, needs to be really wise and disciplined to take the hits, the impacts of life without going crazy. You understand? Without losing and losing everything, losing one's discrimination, losing one emotional reactions and so on. So we need to be strong on the receiving end. So for that, we need to be able to discipline our sense of reception, our receptive sense, that aspect of our personality that receives the results, receives our life's circumstance. That has to be strengthened, and that requires discipline. You have to be disciplined, and as you have heard me saying several times, the ability to discipline either the receiving end of our sense organs as the acting end of our sense organs, the organs of actions, the organs of reception. The way to strengthen these two aspects of our personality is discipline, regulation, which is totally dependent on knowledge and willpower. So we need to have willpower to regulate our sense on the receiving end, on the action end. So we need willpower, and we need also knowledge. Okay, without knowledge, we are left only with willpower.
We need, yeah.
Say it again, Elizabeth.
And a burning desire.
Yes, it's coming.
Yes, that's what's necessary.
Yeah.
To keep on
Yeah.
doing it every day, you know, and
Yeah, totally.
practice. Yeah.
So, and that is the discipline. And the discipline is often divided in 6 aspects of our personality that needs to be improved, you know. So we're going to go through those, okay? There are 6-fold disciplines that makes our character fit for self-inquiry. So self-inquiry is going to come when we have these qualifications in place, plus what you just said, which is an intense or burning desire. So a desire, the last D, the 4th D, is a desire for self-knowledge, desire to understand, desire to be free from ignorance. No? So this last D is very, very important. And it may come before we have those other aspects developed, fully developed. Sometimes one has this burning desire, although one does not have a fully developed qualification, such as discrimination or discipline, you know. So it may happen. I tend to say that burning desire, intense desire is the most important qualification, because if you are born with that, sooner or later the other qualifications are going to develop. Even if it does not develop to a certain extent, Ishwara is going to look at the guy and says, oh my God, the guy is not fully qualified, but look at the heart of this person. He's giving everything. He's ready for this knowledge, you know, even if he is not fully qualified. And then what Ishwara does, I say, okay, let's reveal to him what he wants to know once for all. And later on, he is going to do some work to improve all the other qualifications so that he can enjoy the fruits of self-knowledge. You understand? The student who has all these qualities in abundance is called adhikari, and is qualified to hear and assimilate the teachings of Vedanta quite easily. Okay, it's very difficult to find someone highly qualified, but it happens. In this case, it's often said that they listen, they contemplate a little bit, and then the game is over, in the sense it becomes clear to them. They don't need to do 10, 15 years of manana and nididhyasana, because they have done already before. Discrimination enables us to see the limitation of pursuing world goals as a means of fulfillment, and the necessity of instead developing a desire to know. Okay, so Viveka, it works in its more advanced stage. It's the ability to convert this desire to experience into a desire to understand. Because when we come to Vedanta, we want to know something. We heard about the nature of the self to be limitless security and peace and contentment and satisfaction, and we want to know that for good. So we have discriminate between experience and knowledge. So night I was writing an answer to someone who wrote me, and 99% of the people, if not more, in the spiritual world is still stuck in in the idea that enlightenment is an experience, self-knowledge is an experience of the self, a mystical or spiritual epiphany or something like that. So it takes a long time. I'm exchanging some letters with someone I know, and the person is still, far from understand this distinction. And I'm being very careful, because if I say too much, and then it's over, So it takes quite some time to discriminate between experience and knowledge, until we are clear that only by knowledge we can realize the self, because we are already the self. We just need to know it, and know it for sure, doubtless understanding. So this discrimination, we want to go for abandon the world of accomplishments of samsara, and then we go into the spiritual world of mental states. Now we want to accomplish certain spiritual experience, and then we convert all of that into a desire to understand what the Upanishads are talking about. So I want to understand, I accept, I like the idea that I am limitless consciousness, and I'm full, whole, and complete. But I need to work on it until I have no longer any doubt. So this is the ultimate faculty of discrimination. We're going to discriminate between experience and knowledge, and then we enter Vedanta when we have developed a strong value for knowledge rather than experience. And then we're going to further develop this faculty of discrimination until we are able to follow the logic and discriminate free, limitless consciousness from the very intellect doing the viveka. With discrimination, we can differentiate between passing world pleasures and lasting spiritual liberation, between illusion and truth, between ignorance and knowledge. Viveka keeps us on the right path, enabling us to see with clarity and to be clear about our true goal. This Viveka can only be developed by intelligently analyzing our life experience. There we go. Vedanta is analysis of experience. We have to re-examine our experience in the light of the teachings of the Upanishads, in the light of the teachings of the Gita. We're going to re-examine them, because we haven't really examined, we took them for granted. The reality is duality, and the objects are the source of completion and fulfillment, and so on. Then we're going to do this examination, and we need to have a certain viveka developed. Because Vedanta is going to hold us by our hands, and we're going to have to re-examine our experience. And if we don't have that kind of discriminative inquiry mind, we are going to say, I'm done with this, because I enjoy a good experience when I meditate for 30 minutes. So when we meditate for 30 minutes, the mind calms down, and we enjoy a certain limited and de facto peace. And the person who does not have the viveka, and immediately it quits and say, no, let me put my efforts into controlling my mind so that I can reap a little bit of peace, although it is fleeting, time-bound little peace. This viveka can only be developed by analyzing intelligently, following the logic of Vedanta. With the help of a teacher alone is very difficult, but not impossible, provided we are highly qualified. External factors. We should examine every experience and determine whether our problems are caused by the external world or by our dependence upon the world for happiness. Of course, our problems is based not on the external world, not on our experience, but on the expectations we have in regards to experience. So experience are just experience. They are going to be pleasurable and painful, here and there, again and again. So if we develop an expectation that experience should be always pleasant, and then we are living in delusion, and then we're going to suffer frustration, irritation, anger, disappointment, and depression. So we need to understand that our problems are not due to experience, it's due to the fact that we expect experience to deliver something that can only be delivered by knowledge. External factors can only cause problems if we have this misconception. The problem then is about our ignorance. It's in us, it's the ignorance. I want life to be always good, and I don't understand that good and bad is a byproduct of vasanas, of duality, and so on. This realization, the problem is with us, it's not with the world. Oh, this is a good one. Huh? Oh, there is nothing wrong with the world. The problem is within us. It takes a long time until we realize that. This realization does not dawn immediately for most people. Most people hate this idea. They want to keep changing the world. And then when they get a little bit more mature, they try to change their mental state by discipline alone, willpower, but not bringing knowledge into the equation. And then once it develops further maturity, and then it is naturally attracted to knowledge, and then to Vedanta, and then one begins this path of self-inquiry. It's less than maybe 1 or 2% of the people in the spiritual world comes to the end of the road, and then they understand that there is no experience that's going to solve this problem. There is no object of accomplishment that's going to complete us. And then we get into our small little Vedanta groups of a few people. Now we are very, very lonely in the spiritual world. Have you noticed that, Elizabeth? We are very lonely. Yeah? There is no these nice big crowds of people, cozy, and everybody. Oh, we are a spiritual family, and
Yeah, that's true. But you are alone, but not lonely.
Well said. We are alone, but we are not lonely because
we're not lonely because we know who we are.
Yeah, because how can you be lonely if you are all over the place? So you're just the totality of all names and forms. So those few people come to Vedanta, and then true liberation can only be achieved by realizing that happiness comes from within and not from without. What does that mean? What does mean happiness comes from within? So it's not that it's coming from within the body, but it's a byproduct of a certain wisdom that needs to be developed in the body-mind complex. It's not inside of the body, it's not in the stomach, it's not in the heart, it's not in the brain. It is the body-mind complex has to really inquire and do a good deal of investigation until it understands that happiness is not in any object, but it is a byproduct of a certain mental state. Okay, mental state. What makes us happy? Everybody wants happiness. Is not gaining, achieving objects of desires, but it depends on achieving or accomplishing a certain mental state which is conducive to satisfaction and peace and happiness. And how are we going to achieve this mental condition? This mental condition can be achieved by yoga, by discipline, controlling the mind, deep meditation. It can also be achieved by knowledge. And the best way is to achieve it by knowledge, because knowledge is always good once it's properly integrated, processed. And then we have the knowledge, and then the mind naturally develops a certain condition which is favorable to happiness, to satisfaction. So the happiness is not in the object, the happiness is in the mental state. So it says that it's inside, not outside. It depends on the quality of my body-mind complex. Okay, and then we say no. Happiness is the nature of the self. Okay, happiness is the nature of the self. We can say that, but we know as well that the self does not experience any happiness because it's not an experiencing entity. Okay, and then when we say that happiness is the nature of the self, we are trying to say that the nature of the self is limitless fullness and completion. And since my true nature is the nature of the self, is Atman, so I, as a jiva, I develop, due to this hard and fast self-knowledge, I developed a mental condition which is resolved by this knowledge, which is regarding my true nature as consciousness, the only aspect of my existence that is whole, non-dual, full, and complete. Therefore, it is conducive to happiness in the experiential level. On the experiential level, the jiva then experience this peace and satisfaction and confidence. Okay, so it can only be achieved by realizing that happiness comes with self-knowledge, not from gaining or avoiding objects. So I'm correcting that sentence not to give margin to confusion. Happiness comes from knowledge. What kind of knowledge? Self-knowledge. What is self-knowledge? It's the knowledge of my true nature as limitless, full, whole, and complete consciousness. And then once I'm done with any doubt in regards to this knowledge, and then I have a body-mind construct which is fit for the experience of happiness, and knows very well that it's not in the object, but it is a projection of my mental state. Okay, my mental state now, knowing that the world cannot provide happiness, but my very nature, now I have the knowledge of my very nature, and from that platform of knowledge, I experience happiness regardless of the objects that Ishvara presents to us. We cease our relentless pursuits of objects of happiness, and instead we commit to the pursuit of self-investigation, self-inquiry, in the light of the teachings of Vedanta. Anything else about discrimination, Claudio? Elizabeth? Karen? Okay. Dispassion. Once the discrimination is in place, this leads to a natural dispassion towards world objects. It's the Sanskrit term is vairagya. Now we need to have this discrimination in place. We need to begin understanding the nature of the object. We need to develop the maturity that convinces us that the objects, no matter how many times I succeed in achieving or accomplish or gaining what I want, no matter how many times I do that, this happiness is a fleeting, short-lived happiness that brings even more misery, okay? Because then I have to work to gain something else. So this is all part of discrimination. And then gradually we start looking at the object and say, oh, no, thank you. Have been there, have done that. I worked, I have accomplished, I have got, gained. And in the end, it was not worth the effort. Why? Because it's a short-lived happiness and satisfaction. There must be another way. So this is discrimination bringing about this passion. And then when the same object shows in front of me, I say, no, thank you, I will pass. Oh, no, thank you, I will pass. Oh, no, I understood that this object cannot deliver what I'm looking for. Therefore, I will pass, I will pass, I will pass. And then what I'm doing with my life energy, I'm just further investigate, further inquiring to understand more and more the game of life, the trick of Maya, the greatest illusionist. Realizing that our attachment to worldly objects is only a form of bondage, we no longer make that the top priority of our life. So once we understand that the belief that the world of object can solve my problem, my fundamental problem, which is misery, dissatisfaction, anxiety, irritation, frustration, jealous, and all those negative, unpleasant human emotions. Once I understand that the object, I'm not going to deliver that, and then I just develop a certain disinterest, dispassion towards these objects. Certain things are still needed for our survival, of course, and like health and money and food and shelter. So there is a fine line between certain desired objects. There are some objects that they are genuinely needed. And once we have a certain desire for things that are genuinely needed, like food and shelter, or if I work, I need a car, and then I need a car. And then if I need those things, I need it, but with moderation. So what is moderation? Oh, no, I need a car, so I want $1 million house. I want a house. I need a house. Yeah, okay. But I want a $1 million house, Ishwara. I'm not going to stop until you give me my $1 million house. And then I need a car for work. So no, it's genuine. I need, okay. So I want the last model of a Mercedes-Benz. So all of that is not really necessary. We are losing on moderation. But if it is genuine, if it is moderate, and if it's not binding, and then the desire for things are normal and natural, and they are totally okay. They do not obstruct our growth. But we have to keep in mind that although I need those things to navigate in the world, operate and interact with the world, my main pursuit is not the car, the house, or anything like that. My main pursuit is what? Is developing a contemplative, sattvic mind, and doing my inquiry because I want to get out of samsara. I don't want to stay forever in this realm, this physical material realm, chasing object. So we do those things, but we have our superior, higher goal of life in mind at all times. And why we want that? We want that because we know that only self-knowledge is going to satisfy me. With proper dispassion, our attachment to external objects lessens. So we develop discrimination, we analyze, and we come to understand the limitation and defects inherent to every and all object. And then we begin losing at the object, says, okay, it's all right, I need this, but not really. So Ishwara, if it comes to me, I will take it, but I don't go crazy about that. So I have my preference, but I don't get all excited and disturbed, because my goal now is what? My goal now is to keep my mind fit for my self-inquiry. So my mind is the primary instrument by which I can be an enjoyer or a sufferer of the world. So my goal now is not really to go for accomplishing or gaining object, but to preserve my mind, to keep my mind clean, contemplative, yeah? So that I can further discriminate and further develop this passion and further understand and resolve all the doubts in regards to the final declarations of the Upanishads. With proper dispassion, our attachment to those objects or desires lessens, just as it's said that money is a good servant, but a terrible master. So too, worldly pursuits have a necessary place, but should not be given undue importance and priority. Okay, it's not very important. If we believe that I need to be rich before I get enlightened, and then we are just deluded. Okay, we don't need, we just need shelter, food, and so that we can live with dignity. And then we have all the ingredients that allows us to do our spiritual work. This passion is improved by Karma Yoga, attitude in all things. So it's very, very difficult to develop this passion. We can do a good analysis of experience or the nature of objects, but yet without Karma Yoga it's tough. So Karma Yoga is going to allow us or help us to understand the relationship between Ishvara, Jiva, and Jagat, so that we can take the bad results, the papa karmas, the unfavorable circumstance, the disturbing circumstance, we can take it with elegance, with equanimity. So this dispassion, this sense of equanimity, it needs Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is going to favor the development of dispassion as well. We do our best and we accept whatsoever results, and we don't fight whenever things are not in accordance to our likes and dislikes. We just know that Ishvara knows better. Yeah? Okay, the last D is the desire for moksha, freedom, knowledge, mumukshutva, which is a very, very beautiful desire, as I mentioned last class, because this desire grows only by burning all other desires. What it means by burning? We have a certain amount of life energy at our disposal, and we have a certain amount of time within a body, yeah? And then life presents itself, and we come here with a bunch of vasanas, desires and aversions, and then we have a certain time and we start chasing objects. And then with maturity, we understand that objects are now going to be the solution, because the more I get, the more frustrated the more I succeed in getting what I want, the more desperate and frustrated I am, because I'm still feeling empty, incomplete, and inadequate. So having developed that kind of understanding, we basically start seeing the desires for objects disappearing. It's very much as if it's burning. So I remember when I lived in the USA, when I moved there, I had this thought in my mind that I want to be an American millionaire. And then I want to have a beautiful home with a swimming pool. And I was a spiritual guy, but I was a bit confused at the time. And then I want to have the best of both worlds. And I was going for it, and then I understood gradually that you know, it's a hustle, it's a struggle, and it's never going to work. And then out of the blue, when I saw my $1 million home desire have evaporated, so all that energy went into something else. So if we have thousands of desires for completion, and believing that those desires are going to make us a better me, and then with maturity and dispassion and discrimination, we see this desire diminishing. Instead of 2,000 desires, now I have just 1,000, I have just a few hundred, and then I have only 5 desires. So what happened to all other desires? All other desires, they just burned to give room to this final desire, which is desire to understand your true nature. You understand? So if we are split among thousands of desires, this desire for liberation is going to be a small desire among many other desires. And we need a big desire. It has to be a huge desire, a huge fire, you understand? And it's going to burn all other desires until it extinguishes itself. And then we come to a very nice place, quote unquote, you understand? So this is Mumukshotva. It's a very nice desire. It may sound like contradictory because, oh, desire is a problem. Yeah, but this is a good desire. Believe me, this is the best desire because it's a desire that takes you beyond the desire for things and even for enlightenment or for experience as a means to complete yourself. What did you say, Karen? Oh, thank you. Okay. Okay. Okay, so let's do it next week. We do a little bit more over Mumukshotva because we are over the time here. And we meet again next Monday. If we have a Sangha, we keep in mind my basic rule. We need at least 5 people for doing this class. If our Sangha further shrinks, we may stop our meetings. I hope it won't be happening that way, but we'll see. Okay? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, my friends. See you soon. Ishwara willing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.